motherfuckers. Hey, oh, bam! What up, gang? We're live. We have a special thing tonight instead of our normal daily news. We're actually going to talk about human nature. What is human nature? And we have to bring our own fucking support of it. You know, like how do you support your ideas? And so like we've had these discussions in our other. Shai was mentioning that we had other discussions about it, like in the flow we were in different conversations, and then Kitty mentioned it before as well. You know, what is it human nature to be A, B, C, or D, cruel or whatever? But I think that, you know, just to keep it centered around politics first, and we'll spread out into more like like cultural stuff. But I think is it human nature to be tribal? You know, I think that's fairly obvious we are, but when you have 331 million people that's supposed to be in your tribe, you know, not, but you know what I mean? Like that's what a country is. It's one huge fucking tribe with a stupid ass flag. But I think we're defying our own natural abilities in a tribe of that many people, or even half, you know, 100 million. I just want to get your guys' thoughts on this.
So two things kind of come to mind instantly, right? So first, when you mention like political, I think most often when I hear like, what is human nature? Usually it's like a rebuttal to the whole communist camp, right? Like, oh, communism sounds great on paper, but it can't work because of human nature. Yet no one ever defines human nature. It gives me what those characteristics are supposed to be, right? Which is probably what led us down here to begin with in some sense. But the second thing I think of is what were humans like kind of originally doing like in this like timeline, during like what we now look like, right? Like post Neanderthals, all that jazz. Originally about 100 to 150 people in a tribe, right? In a group. So I think when we're going to talk about tribalism, we have to even ask like, well, what is tribalism, right? What does that look like? Is that a family? Is that a country? Is that a tribe? Is that humanity as a whole, et cetera, right? Or at least do we have the capacity for that to be the entire tribe, et cetera? So that's kind of where my mind went.
Mm-hmm. I thought of football teams.
Yeah, that's what I thought of too. I thought of sports. I was like, tribalism definitely exists in human nature because look at just how we are with sport teams. Like, and it's just because like we geographically happen to be close to them. No other reason to affiliate ourselves with them other than that.
Yeah,
yeah, sports is a good reference too.
It's a natural tendency, I think. Try to break into small groups.
In-group, out-group bias. There's always some in-group, out-group bias. And because humans can make value judgments, we're going to draw lines somewhere, and we're going to pick and choose who we put on what side of that line. The question is, how do we draw those lines and why? Probably.
Right.
So.
Well, and like, wouldn't like a congregation, wouldn't that be an example of tribalism as well?
I'd argue any type of situation where someone values some kind of group over a different kind of group, be it their family, be it, you know, Texans, be it Americans, yeah, be it subcultures with like, you know, vegans, et cetera. Like, it doesn't really matter what it is. If you value some group over another to the point where like you're starting to place them above others, that's probably some toxic tribalism. I don't think tribalism is inherently bad, right? We're like a kind of a collective species in one sense, right? So there's like this weird mix between individualism and tribalism, ego, human nature, etc. So,
What do you think, Ron?
Yeah, I think tribalism is definitely a part of human nature. I think who we care about in our tribe is kind of like a circle, and the goal is to advance the borders of that circle out further and further until you can basically encompass the whole world. And right now, everybody's just staying within their little tiny circles.
Yes, and we got Heidi.
Hello.
So Heidi, we'll get your opinion once you jumped in here. We're asking, you know, is it human nature to be tribal?
To be tribal.
Are we tribal in nature?
Yeah, I'm gonna need a few minutes to think about that. Can you circle back to me?
Yeah,
we have to be, because our young come into this world needing protection, needing someone to fend for them, and that right there means you're going to place resources towards that end over some other end, which means you're making a value judgment. This life matters more than some other life.
It's supported in the fossil record, even.
Yeah,
I mean, we have a skull of Homo ergaster, which is 1.4 million years old, but he has no teeth. And they know that his tribe was watching out for him, was feeding him, even though he couldn't contribute. You know, there was human compassion from a near-like species 1.4 million years ago. Actual, for lack of all better words, actual morals and actual morality of sorts is already there.
Well, and I think it's an evolutionary advantage. I always go back to evolution. These things have all evolved because in group, out group, humans, we are very soft, gooey, squishy, edible fucking primates. Let's be real. We're not fast. We're not strong. We're advanced tool makers, and we had language that helps us pass down knowledge generation to generation. The only thing about us that is the second nature is the ability to hold your breath and swim when you're a baby, which I goes back to think that supports the aquatic ape theory personally. But like naturally, evolutionary wise, we have to be, because we had to survive in numbers. You had to have lookouts. You had to have perimeters and stuff like that to protect yourself, camouflage, all that stuff.
There's so many other species that do that as well. Prairie dogs, monkeys, chimpanzees,
Absolutely.
You name it. There's
I guess I'm wondering, did you guys define like what tribal is? Because
No, we're doing it in broad strokes. We're getting more finite as we go, probably.
because it's not necessarily negative,
Oh no, I wasn't thinking of it like that, but I'm honestly wondering, what does tribal entail, and how does that apply to human nature?
So tribalism is typically the state of being organized into some type of group, right? So we call it tribalism because originally there was human tribes, usually about 100 to 150 kind of in number, that would be wherever they were, where they originated. But basically, if we think of the concept of tribalism and in-group, out-group bias, basically this amounts to any kind of group that humans kind of find identity with, right? And they kind of set a culture and things like that. And they might value that over another group that they see, against or whatever, different, however you want to classify it. So. Right.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think I'm going to have an answer for that tonight. I'm so sorry.
I'm sure you just walked in the door. I'm sure as we talk more, you'll have some ideas that occur.
Yeah.
I actually respect that. No, it's this is actually a pretty heavy conversation. So there's literally nothing wrong with saying, you know what? No, let me think on that a bit and see where I think. I respect that.
Yeah. Well, and so my next. Oh, so go ahead, Shai.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I keep fixating on something Ron said, and he was like, the skeleton didn't have any teeth, so that you could tell the person wasn't contributing. You mean like in traditional labor, with traditional labor?
Right, exactly. Yeah, he may have been contributing in many other ways. Maybe he was watching the kids. Maybe he was, who knows? But the point is that we had humans that were softening his food for him and keeping him fed. For a purpose.
Like they valued his existence.
Exactly.
Yeah, which they wouldn't do unless his existence contributed in some positivity to the tribe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and how do I want to put this? It wasn't survival of the fittest, even from the beginning. As soon as you form a tribe, you don't do survival of the fittest. You all protect each other, powers in numbers. If you have a group of 100 and you say survival of the fittest, all you slow fuckers, you're dead, haha. But they have other skill sets that contribute in a different ways, like maybe passing down knowledge about how to fashion shoes so you don't cut your feet, or medicinal things, know more about the berries and the foods that are poisonous. All these things about absolute survival, like where the fuck does water come from? How do we find some more?
And that can be rooted in genetics, in that, if you're living like we used to in tribes of like Matt was saying, a maximum of 100, 150 individuals, the odds are that if you're talking to somebody in your tribe, they're somehow related to you, at least distant. So you share a good amount of your genes with those people. Mm-hmm. And so you may be being altruistic, but your genes are telling you here, share, because you're not just assisting yourself, you're assisting some other genes into the next generation, even if they're not your own. They're a copy of the same ones that are in you and somebody else.
Mm-hmm. It's an extension of a family,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But like you said, in nature, if you just go back to just chimpanzees today, they're just now, entering the Stone Age. They're making tools now. Mm-hmm. They're showing us our past, because we have more genetic. We have more in common with a chimpanzee than a chimpanzee has with an orangutan. Think about that. They're that close to us. They're showing us how we became Stone Age, and then they'll show us how we continue to evolve. We won't, evolution takes a long time.
Yep, they're tribal. They're murderous.
Yeah, they're very tribal. Yeah,
murderous
in good and bad ways.
They're omnivores. just like we are. Their teeth are developed in such a way, just like ours are. Their brains are developing, and now you have actually have primates that are swimming and foraging underwater, up in the elevations of I think it's in China, the Himalayas, I believe. They have first time they recorded them actually hunting underwater for food, and just staying in the water all damn day to stay warm. So they have like an aquatic coexistence because of the hot springs.
Yeah. And I mean, the two most warlike primates are chimpanzees and us. So.
Yeah. How close are we to bonobos?
They're the second closest.
They're the
second closest, yeah.
Yep. And then you have
bonobos would be cooler to be closely related to because they just base everything on sex.
Yep. Hi, goodbye, thank you, no thank you, I'm sorry. It's all about sex.
Right.
Yep.
What are we talking about? What? I'm just
all of a sudden I hear Mike's voice.
He heard sex and he perked up.
He's like, when you also look at huge groups of primates, not bamboo. What the hell? The ones that live in Africa with the colored nose and the big ass teeth. Baboons. I said baboo. I said, what the fuck? Anyway, but yeah, baboons. They live in large groups.
Them some mean motherfuckers.
And they're territorial, and they're very aggressive. And they live in an environment that's very hostile, and yet they survive.
Maybe I'm a baboon.
I have a question, I guess. Is survival human nature?
All things in nature needs to survive. I think so.
But I've been thinking about it. Well, I tried thinking about it a little bit before the call, so that's where my head was. So I had to try to go the other way when I got on. But so I was thinking about human nature, and the most basic things that we do as humans. Number one thing is we survive. But what does it take to survive, right? The most basic things is we need to breathe. We have to do that every minute, just about. We need to eat and we need water. But breathing is an autonomic part of our nervous system. We don't even think about it. It just happens automatically for us. Eating and drinking water is not automatic. And I forget the word for it, but you have to physically do it and make your muscles function. So when does survival turn into a conscious thought of I want to survive the day? You know what I mean? Like when an animal's chasing us at some point. Do you guys see where I'm going with this?
I think I do. I think what you're saying is the way I view it is there is a definite drive in most animals to survive. And that is regardless of what lights are on inside as far as consciousness goes, So roaches want to survive. And humans want to survive, But humans have the capability of overriding those instincts, whereas a roach really doesn't,
Well, we're the only animal that kills itself and others for no reason.
She just hit a really good thing there. So the use of survival, that's why we live at a fucking amazing time in history, an amazing time period, because we are somewhat seeing this crazy paradigm shift between survival to existence, all right? There are people in this world who are not surviving anymore. They're existing. Yeah. To that point, they're not worried about how am I going to breathe? How am I going to eat? How am I going to sleep, right? They're rarely in that flight mode, right? So humans actually probably are there, if not close to a point in time where if we want to reimagine society, we could all be in a state of existence, or most of us for the most part, right? You probably can never achieve all. But you can get pretty damn close if we wanted to, I think. So it's kind of like the whole scarcity versus an abundance mindset thing right there, right? Given our productive, and here's the thing. So Marx has touched on this, right? When we're talking about the nature of things, and I've talked about this before with this group here, but the nature of the spider is the web, right? Or maybe the ones who hunt right out of their, et cetera, right? The nature of the bird is its nest. The nature of the salmon is its run, it lays, et cetera, right? And all of those are instinct to survive, right? we have our own instinct to survive, right? We have our limbic system, right? Our flight or fight, but we've also got cognition, right? We have that cerebral cortex, right?
Right.
Got some weird shit going on up here.
Which is the last thing to evolve,
Right. Higher
Right.
level. But also gives us speech. Isn't that kind of ironic? The same area of the brain that gives us speech also gives us fucking personality disorders, most violent, like schizophrenics is where that's the most lit up area, but unevenly. Left brain to left hemisphere to right hemisphere. And then you look at like how we process data, like visually. If you look at a female brain, and excuse me, people that have all these different new labels, but I'm just going to go strictly on the scientific terms, right? Of there's a feminine brain and a masculine brain according to science, and the feminine brain has a lot of crossover data. It's it's called the shit.
Corpus
go ahead, Heidi. Go ahead, Heidi.
According to science, we've discovered over 42 or over 40 genders.
Yeah, he's talking about sex, and here's the thing: it's not masculine.
Yeah, not gender.
Brains. It's not masculine or feminine brains. It would be male versus female.
XXXY kind
Well,
of thing. Right.
but I mean, even that. I mean, there's differences, but it's all a spectrum.
Yeah, I'm
what I
going
mean?
broad strokes. So I'm just gonna go. I'm just going broad
Okay.
strokes. I know there's also XXY, XXX. There's intersex, which is
Yeah.
shows the spectrum, right? But people that are just standard, let's just say standard issue stuff, right? I'm getting a lot of fucking feedback, but in a typical brain scan, you have the male model, the XX model or XY. I'm sorry, that the communication is front to back. The orbital lobe that is all about visual processing, and then frontal lobe is about processing the information for velocity, trajectory, movement, and to single on a single thing. And then the XY brain or XX brain, I keep fucking that up. And there's more left hemisphere, right hemisphere communication. So like they show eye movements when you show someone a big field of vision. There's a lot of dots falling down. The male brain or the male eyes will always pick one and fall down, pick one and fall down, pick one and fall down, and the female brain looks at all of it, takes it all in, and doesn't really look for one. It just kind of just looks at everything. It's like I find these things interesting, evolutionary, like yeah, it fascinates me personally.
And again, that's vast generalities, like you're saying.
Yeah, I'm saying just huge broad stroke and
There's lots
old
of
school
exceptions to
thinking.
that.
I know.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, as a programmer, it's worked on like a legacy app that's been developed over many years. It's like evolution's kind of the same way, I think, in the way we evolve. And so, if I look at the app today that's been developed over a decade, there's all these little bugs and weird idiosyncrasies and shit that are still present today that maybe aren't even relevant anymore. But it's just there, man. Like we have to deal with it or account for it, or because of how the app was developed over a long time. And I think we have that too. Like we have these weird things that bubble up, and whether
that's
it's
exactly how
physical or-
evolution works. It can only work with what it already has. It can't invent anything out of whole cloth. So, like for instance, the vagus nerve that goes all the way down, loops around. We were talking about that last time, I think. Even in giraffes, it does that. Even though they have a ludicrously long neck, why doesn't it just go from here to the back? Well, because when we were fish, that's the only crossover it had to make. And eventually we got necks. And so that nerve had to get longer and longer and longer. And it's absurd. An engineer would never create it that way. But evolution can only work with what it already has. So it has to keep working with what's already there.
Yeah. And that argument defies intelligent design. And I love it.
Yeah.
Then with
Right?
with like the next level thinking that we have too, like it's so abstract and so, like it's really interesting. Like jealousy, for instance, an emotion, jealousy, that probably has an evolutionary, like historical basis.
Absolutely. Yes.
But yeah, it's gonna manifest
But
today.
culture affects that as well.
Mhm.
There are cultures where people there's very, very few cultures where people have sex in the open. Almost all cultures have sex somewhere off in private. But there are a few, just like most cultures do believe in God, but there are a few that have no concept of God, which is really interesting to study.
I want to go
Yeah, it's really neat. They're in the Amazon basin is the one I'm thinking of. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, they just have no concept of God. And in fact, the missionary that went there walked out doubting his own faith because of the interaction he had with these people.
Mhm.
So
Yet they have morals.
yeah, and yet they had morals, right?
There you go.
Mhm.
So let's switch the next topic over to like, okay, is it natural to have a not a belief system, but it's another form of tribalism is religion, to believe in a higher power, if you will. I think it's more cultural, but I just want to talk about that since most of us aren't even like of the faith anymore, of the cloth, whatever you call it, of the Bible, of the good book or whatnot. But like I think it is tribal. It is another form of tribalism, but it's also advantageous for survival to all believe in the same cultural system, and also a form of control and survival. It's just easier to form a tribe. You all believe in the same story, whatever it might be.
Cautious cooperation.
Yeah, right.
I think it's a byproduct of a lot of tendencies that people have. Those tribalistic tendencies that people have to cooperate when you believe in the same thing, when you have a cemented society, when you have common purpose. Religion is kind of a byproduct of those things. And it's kind of distilled down and maximized to foster those particular characteristics, which can be good and bad.
I'd argue that they were the original attempts at science. I think it's pretty natural to ask, who are we? How do we get here? Why are we here? And there's lots, I'm sure, just like we all have lots of answers now, there's lots of answers back then, right? And we know that certain myths now did kind of correspond with like certain weather and things like that. And they were attempts to answer things that were very fucking mystifying or confusing. But there's also a lot of misconceptions we have about some of the ancient societies. They were pretty fucking advanced and civilized, and they had some great knowledge that we ourselves now don't hold. So that's kind of my little input there.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Is that we have naturally are inclined to look for answers, and religion provides a lot of answers. And it was also just I don't know that it's necessary for survival, but I think that a group that is organized has more power to their group is going to be more efficient at obtaining resources and than just excelling versus another group that maybe isn't as organized.
They have an advantage.
Yeah,
right.
They do.
Well, I think that's how you go from a tribalism to a society. Is you have a large group that agreed on something, and they coexist.
Back to my question: truth or progress? Truth or progress? Truth or progress? Truth or narrative that unites the collective? You see what I'm saying?
I find it interesting that within human nature and society, it seems to often break down into a monarchy or a king or a leader, a church, and the tribe. If you like, even in a lot of the smaller tribal societies, that's usually where it works out. You have a chief, and you have a shaman, and you have the tribe. And there's always this jockeying of power between the shaman and the chief, and they each have their uses, and the tribe defers to both for certain things, depending on what their needs are and what their wants are.
Yeah, or some of the more savvy ones, or I'd say progressed ones, is also like a elder council that will default, like the tie goes to the leader type of thing, but they still have like a council, if you will, like a republic.
That's intriguing. But like as humans, we tend to do that where we look for a leader, and I'm wondering if that ties into like survival. Like, why is it not just work as just the collective?
So because so when you're looking at like basic decision making, there's no one right way to do it, right? And so a leader represents a more authoritarian decision making process, but that has pros and cons to it, right? The con is you can really piss off people because then a lot of people aren't involved and it might not be what they want. The pro is you can make decisions like that, and you can address survival needs like that. So if you have a good leader, they're making instant decisions for your group, and they're making good decisions for your group. Vice versa, if you're a bad leader, they're making bad decisions for your group, and you guys would probably bye-bye, and you would have probably rather have had group decision-making. But group decision-making, so here's the problem we have with COVID, for example, right? As a democracy, as a democratic nation, we had a bunch of marching over this thing, when in reality, if we just had one smart dictator, we actually probably would have been fine. I'm not advocating for dictators, but that's the reality of decision-making sometimes, right?
Oh, shit.
No, you're good, man.
I'm just getting a lot of feedback. I'm trying to mute all.
So there's no right or wrong there. It just depends. I would say typically you want to defer towards a more, group. democratic process. But
Yeah, sorry I had to mute everyone because we're getting a lot of feedback on on Matt's end, so I just muted everybody so it wouldn't give us so much feedback. You can unmute yourselves as you want now, but whoopsie, sorry.
And in return, the leader gets certain bennies because otherwise, why take on that extra responsibility and that extra accountability?
Yeah, but some people who take on leadership roles are like, they're not inherently bad. They're not greedy. They just
Oh, sure.
yeah, they maybe like, it could be like excessive empathy. But I'm like, yeah, I agree. Like, I always question why people want to lead certain things.
You should always question why people want to lead.
Well,
question me.
You literally told me, you're like, I'm not that leader, but when we find that leader, we need to protect them at all costs. And I said, I want you to Google David Kim.
And he's pretty good so far. I haven't found anything I don't like.
Yeah, I like.
Well,
David.
now I'm going to have to Google David Kim. That's interesting.
I would also say Google Erica Rhodes, Wendy Hamilton, and also Dr. Jermaine Johnson. He's a state senator and a state congressperson or representative in South Carolina of the 80th district.
I forget his name. Who's the dude running against the conspiracy queen?
Oh, is it Ellison? Allen, or some shit like that. Something Allen.
He's running against Rubio.
Mark Rubio.
Yeah, he's talking about Marjorie Green.
MTG. Who knows? I don't know. I don't even know, honestly. We need to support whoever that is. That's for damn sure. But yeah, so I think that religion or a belief in a higher power, like Matt was going, like originally, is just flat out trying to explain things without science. You have to give human characteristics to things to give it authority. What do you call that? What's that term? Where you're giving like you're giving it power and authority because you can't explain it. There's a God that says it's raining. There's a God of the sea. There's a God of the thunder and lightning.
Give it a purpose, sure. And
Yeah.
I think it's born out of that. If you ever observe children, everything has a purpose. Why are there clouds? For the rain. Well, why is there rain? For the flowers. Well, why are the flowers there? Because they're pretty for people to look at. Everything has a purpose. And so we already know we have, as humans, have that tendency. And so that purpose gets more expressed in our religion.
Well, and it would make sense that could easily happen because when you interact with people, at least my personal experience in 35 years, most people, when you ask them a question, don't say, I don't know. They just bullshit something. Mm-hmm. And so it would make sense when people had like a ton of questions. Some people just started bullshitting, and then people were like, oh, wow, you seem really like you know what you're talking about. And then they got, then that just like evolved to be like, I think I can control this group. So like, it's not good.
So then here's another question. Is it in our nature to default to authority?
I think to a degree.
Yeah, I think to it. Like, yeah, I was like, in other words, if Boyce says something about computers, I'm going to be like, oh, okay, maybe that's true. If Michael says something about computers, I'm not even going to question it, just because at this point I've just labeled him as like an authority on that. He could be totally bullshitting.
Well, and that's the beauty of knowledge back then. You could easily deceive people if you had the knowledge.
I think I was just thinking we only default to I'm sorry, what did you guys say?
Authority.
Mm-hmm. I think we only default to authority when we don't have the time to do it ourselves.
Right. You just don't have the skill set or the experience, or you're not
drive,
or you're not 6'6", 250.
As society gets bigger, you need people to step in to leadership positions to get things done. I mean, if everybody was absolutely doing their own thing, your society would not congeal. You wouldn't get anywhere. You couldn't focus on major projects because people would just get distracted by something shiny and move on.
I compared to like being a chef, like making a meal. Everyone can't just be a prep cook. You got to have a fucking chef to make a meal, So we can't all just sit around just chopping up onions and all the ingredients. Someone's got to put that shit together, So that's what and to survive, we need someone that helps coordinate things, points in right directions, makes decisions that are tough decisions sometimes, whatever it might be, for survival. Like, imagine living somewhere where, like, a monsoon season, right? You migrate from Central Africa and you start heading east, and you're hitting all these different terrains, and you got to make quick decisions to survive. Is it good to go up in the mountains, or is it good to go along the coast? You know what I mean? Like, these little things that really do make or break an entire gene pool is gone. That entire lineage is dead. Bad decision.
It really makes me wonder, because it's like one of the things that I think is the coolest is like the cave paintings in France, for example. Watching ancient man draw and scrawl and make handprints on the stone, and I try to put myself in that place. Being born 50,000 years ago into a world of trees and animals and caves for shelter and no technology except for stoneware.
Right.
And wondering what the fuck but mentally being the same. What the fuck am I doing here? What's this all for? Of course you're gonna make up stories. That's you have to, because somebody's gonna turn and ask you, what the fuck are you here for? What the fuck am I here for?
Where are we going?
You need and like Shai says, people don't like to admit I don't know. And people hate that. I one thing I had to learn was becoming comfortable with saying that. But by and large, people aren't comfortable with saying I don't know.
Yeah, and
it makes you feel better if you have an answer.
We tend to, as like humans, we tend to give people authority when they're confident. Like, that's where like the phrase con man comes from. It's just the confident person. And so I think people who put themselves in leadership roles that were just bullshitting, but were super confident, like the tribes bought into it, because they're like, you must have authority because you say it with such, you're convincing when you say it.
And sometimes it works out. Sometimes it don't.
It's similar with lying.
Yep.
The confidence that comes with saying a lie, makes it more believable.
I was gonna say.
That's all I hear.
Yeah, no, that's true. I was gonna, I think with agriculture, that's when we started to specialize into different fields, right, or specialties, and there was the leaders overseeing the entire process. Really, is what they're doing. And in the modern world, I think we've reached a point where the process has become so complicated that no one really has a firm grasp over the entirety of it. And so, it's chaos. That's organized chaos right now.
But let's look back in our history. We still don't know how they built the fucking pyramids. How the hell they align them with the celestial bodies? How the hell they know this corner, that corner, that corner? It was just this perfect alignment, and then across large geographical areas. Like, we still don't understand how they fucking did that. So we are so high and mighty, we can make computers, we can live stream, but we can't build a fucking pyramid.
But if we were staring at the stars all night, like for decades, like we might become experts in
stargazing. I mean,
the Babylonians were excellent stargazers. Actually, they were really good at astronomy, better than the Egyptians.
We can't even see the stars anymore. The knowledge that they had, that they might have gained from the stars, we've lost it. The darkest place in the U.S. is somewhere in the middle of Texas, and all the lights in the town have a big cover.
The average person has lost that. Right. The average person, same thing. The average person doesn't know how the pyramids were invented, and the average person today can't accurately describe to you how the monitor shows you colors in your computer. The TV shows you images.
If you took the average person, even fuck any of us even, and you dropped them back like 1,000 years ago, we wouldn't know shit.
Right.
We couldn't explain shit. Our knowledge wouldn't mean shit. We'd get killed pretty fucking fast, probably.
Right.
So we could do this in the future. How? Huh.
Bet you ain't doing it today.
Siri. Oh, fuck. There's no Siri, huh? Yeah.
We're specialists. We depend upon the inputs coming into our little area of specialty so much so, like even like surgeons in a hospital, they don't understand the devices that they're implanting into someone's knee. They don't really know the details of that. They're trusting the device manufacturer.
And other people.
The most important quality of a leader today is intellectual humility, because there's so much shit to fucking know out there, and the best leader is someone who knows how to bring about the best minds and allow them to do their thing and not fucking micromanage them.
And that's one thing that made Trump such a lousy leader, is he thought he knew more than everybody else. I know more than the generals. I know more than the doctors. I know more than the, it didn't matter what it was. He was the expert in it. And how did it turn out? Like shit.
Nobody knows art more than Donald J. Trump, okay? Nobody knows more, okay? I mean,
who knew it was so complicated?
Nobody knows vaccines. Nobody knows fraud. Nobody knows taxes. Motherfucker, we about to find out about your knowledge in taxes, bro. He's being brought up on some syndicate shit,
Mm-hmm.
I'm here for it, though.
Yeah, I am too.
Trump was right. The fuck?
That's the name of the, hey, did you drop that?
I was just making a private joke there about, but I didn't want to.
He's just making an inside joke. You can move on, boys. You can move on.
Okay. I'm not inside that joke, so I don't know the fuck you're talking about.
It's just a troll account.
Okay.
Oh.
But yeah, I'm fascinated by evolution and how we form societies. And to form a society is when you start talking about like agriculture, development of agriculture, manipulating the land, manipulating irrigation. That's when humans started to manipulate nature to fit our needs, not the other way around.
So, like with the religion and evolution, I think it was developed out of need and necessity and maybe a sense of understanding, right? But I think we've reached a point where it's now more of a hindrance. This is a legacy, like carryover that's still with us that is not maybe more beneficial than it is harmful.
I think it's more of a relic, more than being a legacy.
Well, the same things that were strengths back then are now hindrances, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Making a small cohesive unit is great in a lot of ways, but it sucks when you have to cooperate with the tribe next door.
Well, it's kind of like eating cards.
And now we're all members of our own. I mean, we're not just members of one tribe. We're all members of several different tribes.
Mm-hmm.
Your religious tribe, your political tribe, your neighborhood tribe, your family tribe, you name it. And we have to juggle all these at the same time.
I don't think religion's more of a hindrance. I don't think that religion has to go bye-bye. I do think that certain ways of practicing religion need to go bye-bye. No doubt.
To me, the issue is I don't think religion has to go away. I think religion has to be made sure. Religion has to be kept pretty much powerless. It cannot have a say at the adult table as far as running things.
We just have to actually be.
That's my view of it.
That's all.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you say, Matt?
Because
we just have to actually be secular. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, keep them separate. Things work much better that way. Because it doesn't mean you can look at Myanmar right now. Even the Buddhism religion, it saddles up next to power and it gets really comfortable and then it starts doing its own atrocities.
Well, it's being played out right now in Palestine.
Well,
yeah, exactly.
Mao and Stalin, what were their religions? Remind me again.
They were anti-theists.
Oh, and how'd that end up?
Well, they were basically a religion of one.
That's a cheap. That's a cheap.
Straw man, if I ever saw one too, by the way.
That's weak sauce.
So wait, I have a question. I'm going to put both Matt and Michael on the spot. I'm going to put Michael on the spot first. So Michael, 50 years in the future, and your ideal evolution of where we go with religion, what does it look like?
It doesn't exist at all because it's a fairy tale, and we don't believe in fairy tales anymore.
Okay, Matt, you obviously think there needs to be it has to be at least evolved in some way in 50 years. What does it look like to you?
Purely prescriptive and not in the way of science, which is descriptive.
So you're not even going to advocate for they need to update their books so that they don't think that gay people shouldn't exist?
If it's purely prescriptive,
they can't act on it.
And it's not descriptive and not getting in the way of science. This is also continuing secular society. They can believe whatever the fuck they want. I'll call them out as the ugly shit stains they are if they maintain that specific belief. But if we have a society that's structured the right way, people can always have ugly beliefs. I don't think we're always going to eliminate. It'll be maybe we can minimize it and it'll be even less, right? But that's always going to exist to some extent.
I think that the danger is that even if you are a secular society, if you have a large group that's being brought up in this culture of dispelling, just believing in things that can't be proven. That's what makes them susceptible to the bullshit con artist and and his conspiracy theories. It's what causes people to not wear a mask during a pandemic, because they're susceptible to this. And
They're primed to thinking that way already.
Well, I'll say this.
Religion alone doesn't do that, and I think you overstate our hand as atheists. I think you're too strong in the position that there is nothing. We don't have an answer ourselves. Science doesn't have an answer. Science isn't an answer. It's a process, right? It's a process that we trust, right? Because it's a process beyond what we as individuals can do, right? So we're putting our faith in other people. We're putting our faith in a process that we've honed in as best we can. But this process fails all the time, actually.
Sure.
Not the process, pardon me, but we get answers wrong, and the process kind of identifies them, right? And we move.
I won't say fail. I will say it constantly improves.
That's why I said. That's why I rephrase, right? Because the process itself is finding.
Well, how do we judge? How do we judge how it fails, though? By the same method that it failed with in the first place, Well,
if it fails, it's like in COVID. If someone come out and said the vaccine doesn't work and it puts a microchip in you, that's a failure of science actually back that up, right? But when I would say when it destroys or causes harm, it's one thing to say science fails us when we prove string theory is just a bullshit theory, right? That doesn't hurt anybody. But if science says that you should drink 1 cup of water a day, you won't get dehydrated, then you get dehydrated and fucking die. Science has failed us in that regard when it causes harm.
But it's always the evidence that leads us to either the original, belief or truth in science, and then the eventual disproving of it. If as new evidence comes out, that's the thing, is that everything's evidence based.
But you have to value that innately first. You have to value truth to be able to do that.
And the process of finding that truth.
Right.
Process.
And understanding that you could be wrong, and understanding that what this is literally just the best educated guess we have based on the evidence at any point in time is science. Right.
And it's subject to change when new evidence comes in, but it also has to, science, like religion, has to be monitored for harm that it's doing to the community. And science has definitely done harm to the community in the past. It's been used as a tool, a bad tool, to hurt people.
It still
in
does.
Those cases, they should be held accountable.
They're throwing people off of bridges and shit for being gay, so it's still doing harm.
Right. Yeah. And so, but science is accountable now in this world. A lot of religious people seem to think that they're only going to be accountable to God in the next one, and that's an issue.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that they're always pitting religion against science, because like faith and science aren't even related. It's like 2 completely different things. But to Michael's point, I'm like, if your faith should encourage critical thinking. So like maybe over the next 50 years, congregations need to evolve to like promote critical thinking.
Then they'll cease to exist.
No, that's not true. Because, like, for example, there's a really good apologist group that promotes critical thinking that has strong arguments for the existence of God that I don't personally buy, but they're good arguments that if you're a serious atheist, you have to take serious the Kalam. You have to take seriously some of these things. Just like the good theists have to take serious the problem of evil, for example.
What do you mean by serious, though, about the Quran? What's serious about the Quran or the Bible?
It's Kalam. He's talking about the Kalam cosmological argument.
Okay.
So, no, I don't give a shit about them books. I can write a book.
I can make up a story, too, damn it.
Well, the problem is, of course, is that the Kalam cosmological argument is quite old. It's nothing new. It's the same.
People try to rebrand it, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't buy it, obviously, because I think the first premise before we even get to a uncaused creator, the first premise to me is debatable as it is. So,
well, that's part of being an atheist too. Is there are different types of atheists? I'm the weak atheist. I'm the type that says I don't think there's a God, but I don't know for sure. And if you provide me evidence, I'll change my mind. And I think that's about as open-minded as you can be about anything.
Yeah.
So I'm always willing to entertain. That's why I dedicate half my channel to. I'm always willing to take the time to evaluate arguments for God. But I do know after 30 years of doing this that my odds of finding one now are pretty fucking slim.
Yeah. 100%.
So I just want to push back a little bit on what Matt said, though, because I feel like if there's lingering hateful thoughts at the end of that 50 years, there's still a problem. And during that 50 years, we should be doing something to encourage congregations to evolve so that they don't have hateful thoughts, because not all congregations have hateful thoughts.
a difficult
I
question.
don't attribute hateful thoughts to religion. I just attribute that to in-group, out-group bias, and that's going to present itself in any form that people choose to, group up. It happens to be religion because that's a really important identity for a lot of people. But if it's not religion, it'll be something else. So,
well, it could be the Chicago Bears or Detroit Lions.
Yeah, the people aren't people by and large aren't dedicated to a war between entire nations because of Bears versus Vikings, but they definitely are when it comes to Islam versus Judaism. So
Well, here's my thing
definitely,
about
religion definitely has a propensity to be used. I'm not saying it's the only tool that can be used that way, but it's definitely one of the most effective.
Yeah, you're convincing your individuals that their entire existence and afterlife and eternal damnation is all based upon this belief, and they buy into it. They'll do fucking anything for that.
Right.
Yeah.
The ends always justify the means when you're in that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
And to answer Shai's question, I kind of feel like in 50 years, what we've seen from religion is it's gone from being very fucking specific to very fucking general. Most people say God now and they don't even bother to define it. It's just God. And whereas before we had gods for very specific things, the God of the woods, the God of the waters, the God of the lightning, what have you. And that's one of the strengths of the people of theist arguments now is that they're very vague in general. And I think as we go along, they're going to get more vague and more general. And maybe some of those hateful propositions like, anti-gay and the nationalism, things like that are going to drop out of it, because the more general you get, the harder it is to justify those specific types of hate.
Yeah, less what do you call that term? Fundamentalism. Broad.
Is that really happening though? Or I think the general public, maybe they view like God more in a general sense, but there are more of these like weirder, like more intense groups popping up.
Less affiliated with religion as a nation.
Like
check it out. Go check. I don't have the numbers on the top of my head, so I can't do it. But check out the demographic shift amongst religious things like that.
No, I think I agree with that. Like in general, we are, but I think there's a lot more of these smaller, like the prosperity gospel is one of the newer ones that's propped up. Trump was in on that stuff, and it's like, so I think you get these weirder, like more intense groups that are also being created.
Yes, another.
Well, I think part of that too is the atmosphere that you live in. If you're in an atmosphere like in the United States where you're struggling to survive, you can't pay your bills, you are going to look to that religion for cohesion and support. If you live in the Netherlands where they have a very powerful, safety net, you don't need that. You don't need that religion. You don't need that support. So that's why you find a lot of people tend to say, well, if you're not religious, then you have a better safety net. But I think it's actually the reverse. If you live in a well-functioning society, you don't feel the need for religion. You don't need that extra support and all that cohesion. So you let it. That's why they're less religious over there.
It's not as dire and desperate.
Right. Whereas like right here, it's being used just to get your damn civil rights.
I want to ask Heidi, where do you see this country in 50 years when it comes to religion?
Oh. Well, I mean, I have hopes.
What does that look like? Because everybody's hopes look differently, In
regards to religion, I guess I hope, because I actually haven't thought about religion specifically much because I don't focus too much on it. But I would hope that people are allowed to practice their religion individually, and that it's actually encouraged to do so on a more individual, as a how you experience it individually,
like a personal faith.
Yeah, I hope that, because I was actually going to ask earlier, you guys were talking about religion being secular, and I guess my question is secular to what extent? Because I guess my dream is that it be secular down to each person.
What do you mean by that?
Go ahead, Heidi.
Because we should all have the freedom to believe what we think this world is.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Yeah, society should be secular. Like the government should be secular. Religion can't be secular by definition because religion itself is religious.
Yeah, decision-making
Well-
processes shouldn't involve religion.
When I'm talking secular, I mean there's
Business.
a very strong wall between church and state. You know,
Oh, that.
Why don't-
Okay.
Yeah, that's in other words, church should
I
not
thought I
have
was
the
getting that
power.
word wrong.
No, that's okay. It's used in different contexts all the time. So, but when I'm talking, that's what I'm saying. When I talk about secular, that's what I mean. It's a separation between church and state. In other words, church does not have the power. If the church doesn't have the power, then it doesn't have the power to oppress anyone.
Right. Yeah. Those two things totally agree. They should be
Yeah.
separate. That's
Yeah. What was you gonna say,
Yeah.
Shaq?
Oh, I was just going to say, I like her vision there that faith just kind of becomes about like what it is, your personal experience. Because
Right.
like we were talking about, like, I don't get why some people want to be in leadership roles. And like, with all due respect to anyone who's in this kind of leadership role, I don't understand why churches have to have a leader with something as personal as like your faith. Like, why would you want to give that authority away? So I don't understand that dynamic where there's like someone at the head of the church and then everyone else listens to what
it's
they have
always
to
been
say.
that way.
I have a theory.
In reality, it's supposed
Ooh,
to be more like a good teacher, not like an actual like leader or like someone who's in charge. It's supposed to be someone who's given this a lot of time and really understands this in depth and is a resource for you to dive further into your own relationship and kind of soundboard off of. But to your point, there's a lot of toxic ass fucking communities where you have really sick motherfuckers who abuse that position, knowing goddamn well how they can. So.
Yeah, and like, don't kid yourself, like that position has a lot of power. And
Sure
I
does.
question people who crave power. They make me uncomfortable. I'm just being honest.
As they should.
I question people who crave certain power in certain settings for sure. Like where there's no checks. Like, because like in that setting, there ain't no fucking check on that. We know that. The only check on him is God, and he's the mouth of God. So
Exactly.
But like on a spectrum of like Michael to Matt, where like Michael's just like it's all gone, and then Matt's like it's not all gone, but like I don't know who I'm closer to, but I'm like it needs to evolve because there's too much hate.
in
And
order to evolving.
Yeah.
You have a
Well,
society.
I think
You have a society as I defined it. These are actual values that will then trickle down to the people and will actually live these values, and it will force religion to either act as such or get further and further marginalized, which is why the more extreme ones are popping up because they are getting further and further pushed away.
Right.
So
what's
I
left
think-
is concentrated true believers now. I mean, more and more people have left the fold. Less than 50% attend church now. So it's those concentrated true believers and the ones that get their kicks from being in church for their bigotry, for their hatred. Those are the ones that are sitting in the pews now for the most part. I mean,
And then
what is it? I mean, I hate to be offensive, but what does it take if you're still a Catholic in the front row right now? What does it take for you to just renounce that system of religion? How many kids have to suffer?
We should
How can you sit there and still put money in that plate is beyond me.
I don't think you should be able to teach kids like religion, but that's a tough one because I don't think I'm not trying to tell parents what they can and can't do, but like, dude, there should be like some kind of like rule about when like religion can be taught, man. Because like that shit's that's
Kids'
my
minds aren't equipped to handle that.
I'm willing to concede I don't fucking know the answer, but I am not willing to fucking concede you like teaching that to a child when they can't critically fucking go at it themselves. So
I have two solutions. First, teach all religions, history, origins, and their doctrines. All of them. Teach
which
them
is
all.
important because understanding how like the Roman Empire broke up and how like the Reformation happened and how these splits kind of shaped the way certain cultures do things in some general ways. It's important to fucking know this shit anyways.
That's what I'm saying.
Teach all world face and the facts of them. Yeah.
Right. Well, you give all the kids the information to then critically think and be like, wait a minute, that person in Hinduism died and rose 3 days later? I've heard this before. Oh, this religion has this person. That person died and rose 3 days later? Oh, this person didn't have an earthly death? This, all these things are all borrowed and passed down and fucking bastardized and weaved. That's what I want all religions taught at the same authority level, which is none, just facts. This is how this religion came to be. No authority, factually. And then second thing, all I want is some fucking aliens already, disprove all this bullshit. We're not special. We're a fucking side project, like Little Dicky said in a song, man. Maybe God fucks with aliens, we're just a side project. And they're more advanced than us. If they get here, they're more. And they just declassified all this shit. I'm down with the alien shit right now, man.
I don't think those are UFOs, man. I think I know what it is.
What?
I think it is.
Fucking solve all our problems right now, Michael. Let's go.
But the UFOs specifically.
Yes.
I think that it's what they got on tape is a gyroscopic propulsion engine.
Doesn't exist.
That's what it's the latest military weaponry, and it's using the torque that's produced from gyroscopes, and that's what you're seeing in those films.
That's a theory. Okay.
It's a theory.
I'm telling you, I
secret
admit,
aircraft.
this is me fucking just trying to explain it. Right?
I just remember there was a time it was a plane. I don't remember the exact timing of it and the all the full details, but there was a plane flying into LaGuardia, and they kept seeing a flashing green UFO as they were coming towards the airport. And this thing is making maneuvers that no earthly aircraft can make.
The stealth bomber.
And this was like in the 70s.
Oh, okay.
And they could not figure out how this thing was making the moves it was making until they finally landed and realized there was a fucking lightning bug in between the two panes of glass in the fucking plane. And those were two experienced pilots that were sitting there for the last 40 minutes. I can't believe what we're looking at, what we're seeing. You never know.
And you shouldn't.
Never know.
I'm down with aliens though, man, because that would just disprove all these bullshit
it's fascinating.
theories.
I don't personally believe they're here, but I believe they're out there. I just don't think they're here.
They literally have to be. I mean, this shit's too big.
Right.
It's such a ridiculous question when people are like, "Do you believe in aliens?" And it's just like, the question should be, "Do you believe they're on Earth?"
Right.
Because obviously, it's absurd to think in the entire universe. It's such a human race mentality.
Yes.
To just be like, we're obviously the only ones here in the entire universe.
Now that's tribalism, like a motherfucker.
Well, that's the point I always make, is that humans have always thought they're at the center of things, and science has always disproved us every single time.
If we fucking got it though, like if we understood that, like there was other fucking planets, other fucking species and shit, do you think we actually might take this fucking planet more seriously? If like, oh damn, look at how those motherfuckers treat their planet. Like, or do we just not, or do you think it wouldn't really matter?
I don't know.
We
really
devote all resources into weaponization for the future alien war.
Which is why most UFO sightings are around our nuclear activity and shit like that, dude. Nuclear reactors, things of that nature. Testing, especially testing sites.
If you can get here through the cosmic dark, nuclear power is not fucking fascinating to you.
But no. But think about this. If you think about it, big picture, if there's a superior existence, right, a being that has figured out some shit that we don't understand with physics, right, with beings. What's that?
God.
Oh, fuck off. But figured out how to manipulate dark matter. For
gravity
or whatever it is.
The one that if gravity manipulation, we can manipulate light, sound, like heat, like all that stuff, all those other forces, but we haven't touched gravity yet. So
now think about it from like a zoo exhibit. Like this could be no more than just another exhibit. They send these little fucking beans. They show, oh, look at this thing's fucking moving 13 miles an hour and blah, blah, blah. Well, maybe it's just a fucking probe. There's more evidence for aliens than God, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm pro-alien. You know, like it's possible they've been here the whole time just checking us out. We just don't know shit, right? So I think there's more evidence for aliens than God.
Hold on a second. You just said we don't know shit, and then followed up by saying, therefore, there's more evidence. That can't really both be true on that one.
No, I think there's not evidence for either.
There was a semicolon. This isn't Matt. This isn't evidence, but like this, like when a voice said what he said before, and then you responded with, "You mean like God?" What my brain said was like, "You mean like Balkans?" So like, I maybe it's just you have to see the world a certain way.
Remember
to get what he's saying.
I get what he's saying because I believe it, but I would argue
there's no evidence though. Where's the evidence?
Well, no, there was no measurable evidence. We don't know how to, like, this technology is beyond our capabilities.
Right? Goes back to UFOs. It's not a UFO if we can define what it is.
Right.
If the government has that technology, wouldn't they be able to define what it is? They wouldn't themselves call it a UFO then, right?
Well, drones are UFOs until they became public, right? I'm talking about extraterrestrial technology outside of our systems. I'm down with that shit.
Some of these sightings are with things that move beyond what should be human technological capability.
That's the greatest amount of evidence that we have, is that something which is a UFO is out there doing things that normal things can't do, and that's the extent of that evidence. We've actually got a decent amount of what you would call evidence.
Now, obviously, there's varying levels of strength to evidence, which is why I said it's not that there's no evidence for God. To me, there's just not strong evidence for God, for example, right? Where I would argue that there's stronger evidence for me. Also, when I think about this logically, right? When I think about it statistically and how big this universe is supposed to be, right? There's just more evidence, I think, for UFOs, right? And I think there's more evidence for what that might mean when we think about what this universe looks like statistically. And to your point, when we consider how much shit we don't know, man, like what we think could be God really could just be aliens or something that, you know, some other species that we really don't know about, which is just more technologically capable than us, which goes back to my original theory that if they are more technologically capable than us, look at our timeline. As we've increased with our tech, things have generally gotten better on Earth, right? Our behavior has generally gotten better over, like, you know, population levels, right? Of course, there's still shit stains, but we don't kill each other quite as much, right? So ideally, wouldn't they have like a higher level of morality, right, with the tech? Maybe they hit this level.
That's an assumption.
Imagine,
but it's a good one. It's a good one. It's the same assumption.
It depends on what they're buying,
right? Because like if you have an easier life, right, you're more focused on like actually asking the important things in life. You're not fucking in like the scarcity mindset. So you don't have to come here because like you're dying. But then to that point, what if they were in a scarcity mindset because some shit's going on in that aspect of the universe we don't know about?
Or if they have a vastly different biology. Say that they have litters of 30 children at a time, and they breed like rabbits. They're not going to be as focused on individual life being sacred as others are. They were like, fuck it, I can have 30 kids next week, you know. So they may not consider life sacred. You know, they look at us as squishing an ant.
Have you guys seen the movie Prometheus?
A long time ago. I don't know much about it.
I love the idea of it though, because it's like, okay, humans,
an elder race type thing.
Yeah, like there's a higher level of humanoid that planted us here with a seed, like we're seedlings, we're this thing they grow, and then they say that this is a failed experiment, and they send a disease to kill us all off, like a predator type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like Star Trek had a similar episode where basically that's one way that Star Trek shows that everybody is basically, you know, 2 arms, 2 legs, and has some ridges on their head, is because the progenitor race came through our galaxy and seeded all these different planets for Klingons and Vulcans and humans and Andorians and all that. And they're all related, which is an interesting idea. You know, somebody had to be first.
Right. And there's also interdimensionalism. People talk about different dimensions. Things can come in and out of dimensional stuff, which I don't buy all that bullshit because there's very little evidence.
I smoked some DMT one time, and I'm telling you, that's the evidence. All I needed.
Did you really? Like,
yeah.
You're not trolling?
I'm not joking.
Oh, I'm so jealous. How was it?
It was intense, but it was calm, and like we can chat about it later, maybe.
Yeah. Wait, when are we doing it next together? At Matt's house.
Let's go. All right, let's set it up.
My first experience is going to be on my own for show. Second time. Yeah.
I'll brief description. Lights appeared in the sky, and then a big godlike fluorescent dude was in the sky, and then a sword grew out, and it went right. It came out of the sky right through my head, and it was not scary though. It was just intense. But I'll leave it at that.
You heard it here. You heard it here first, folks. Michael Patrick just proved the existence of God.
No, but
he awaits until
that
Bell
wasn't
cries.
the takeaway. The machine elves came later. It gets more complicated. We can't dive into it in this bit.
Dude, I so want to do shrooms, man. That's been one of my bucket list things for about a decade now.
Bro, if you're ever in California, you come see Matt, and we're gonna take care of you.
How about I meet you in the middle? We'll go to Colorado where it's legal.
Well, go to NorCal for Matt and SoCal for me, and you know.
Sweet.
Just tell. I'll be traveling around. I'll follow the shrooms wherever.
Like Morels.
Be chasing those things around.
Your mic just pops up. Ooh, we got shrooms.
I heard there was
like a fucking leprechaun, you know. There be gold in them rainbows. No, but I am dead serious though. Like this is not. I'm not even joking. Like I really want to trip the fuck out because as the atheist in me, the person that's a non-believer of most things, I want to see what else is seeing that's changed their life. You know, like Joe Rogan did an entire episode tripping balls, man, with oh shit, I can't remember the guy's name. He's real squeaky voice. He's like, yeah. and he had like a NASA suit on and shit, and the other dude had like a fucking full camouflage like gunny thing for like snipers and shit. And they sat there for like 2 hours tripping balls and talking shit and smoking and drinking. And
Well, I think it's, we're talking about human nature. I think that's all of this is part of human nature. The need to explore the stars, explore your own inner consciousness, all those things. And I mean, it's like I'm interested in those experiences too, simply because how the human brain works. I mean, basically the way the human brain works is that when you encounter something, 50 little pieces of your brain all vie for attention, decide who's going to get the attention, and that is where your thoughts come from. And if you stop and think for a minute, like, what's your next thought's going to be? You don't fucking know. It's just going to happen. You have no clue what you're going to think about next. And when it does hit your brain, it's going to be primed by something I said or somebody else said or something you did 20 years ago.
Or memory, yeah.
Yeah, and we don't know what's coming next, and I just find that fascinating. We don't know where our own consciousness comes from. It just sneaks up on us.
I keep telling people I want to do my first trip on a live stream, but everybody tells me it's a fucking terrible idea.
I don't know if it would be terrible, but there is a risk.
Don't do that.
There is a risk. You need
That's
to.
what I was gonna say. Don't.
Everybody said that.
You need to have a bailout plan so that if shit starts to go south.
See, that's what keeps me from wanting to do that stuff, is because I'm just like, I would need to be around a lot of people I implicitly trust, because I'm just one of those anxious people to be like, go with that. You
have to be around somebody, like one person that you know
trust,
has your back. And if you were to do it live, you've got to have a team of people and somebody to sit in front of the camera while you're crying in the corner.
Yeah,
no, I have to tell you about Prometheus now.
Real talk. It's to be respected, man. It's to be respected because you're doing something that activates aspects of your mind you're not really in with. All right, and the mind. The mind's a really powerful thing. I'm gonna continue on here real quick. I love shrooms. I fucking love them. And I highly suggest them appropriately. All right. So you take the right amount, you make sure you're in the right mental space, you make sure you're with someone you trust, right? And you figure out how you react to it. And the thing is, you don't resist, you don't fight it. You got to go with the trip, right? You got to accept the trip. You don't get to dictate the trip. All right. You don't go into a trip looking for something. All right. The trip comes to you and you accept it.
It's a lot of ways it's like meditation in that respect.
There's the mind's capacity for ignoring like a glaring like deficit, maybe that whether it be a behavioral one that you have or something that you're doing that's bad, and we can just block that shit out as humans.
Yeah,
that shit is going to be exposed to you, and in a way that you can't look away. So
it gets rough.
Yeah. And that's so you want to make sure, like, you want to have your life in order. You want to maybe exercise the day before, eat, like be in a good mental place overall, because you might get exposed to some shit and you want to be in a good place that you can handle that, because it can go south. So
yeah, I'll probably do it. I won't do it on here, but it's really a fun concept. But
do it at a club, at a rave. That's the fuck. Like, you got too many lights and lasers going on there.
If you're gonna do that, don't take the full. Don't take like your microdose maybe then, right? Microdose.
Yeah. Because if you microdose, it kind of gets you used to the sensation probably. And actually, microdosing they're doing studies on it, right? It's fighting against depression. I don't know, like. At least it's a fucking plant and not pressed pills, right?
Right.
You gotta squeegee clean the third eye sometimes, and that's.
Sometimes you gotta just polish the foreskin. It's all good.
I'm gonna hammer the calcium out of it.
Yeah.
Well, I like also the idea of the stone ape theory, where you have like people that were tripping balls thought the bush was talking to them, and a snake told them to eat an apple and whatever kind of thing. Like
they say that in the desert with the sheep, they were sheep herders, and the mushrooms grow on the sheep poop, sheep dung, whatever. So psilocybin mushrooms. So it's possible.
That theory is dope as fuck, but there's a better chance of the existence of God than that.
No, not at all, because I think I don't want to
go look into the arguments for and against stoned ape theory. and tell
Well, I
me.
just think it's fascinating. I doubt it's true, but I like the idea.
It's fun as fuck. It was plausible to me once upon a time, and then I dove into it, and I was like, "Ah, god damn it!"
It is plausible, but it's not likely.
Why isn't it likely? Was there not
Well-
mushrooms around that they would eat?
Oh, there are always all that shit's there, but the stone date theory is very specific about causing your certain parts of the brain to grow, stimulate growth with thought, and all. Like they're saying that your brain on these chemicals makes you think more and nudges you to evolve quicker. They're very specific about the timeline. So it's okay, between here and here, the brain grew X percent, which is exponential. And they're like, maybe they was tripping on shrooms and thinking more and blah blah blah. Possible, but not likely.
Okay.
They're trying to make sense, kind of like religion. They're trying to make sense out of science they don't understand. Like the evidence shows the brain grew 30% in a tenth of the time the rest of the brain grew. With evolutionary trajectory. I think it's got more to do with our foods, like fatty acids and stuff like that make gray matter in our brain.
But could the mushrooms or some psychedelic experience have, like, I don't know, encourage the empathy and the community building like aspects where they see, I don't know.
Well, definitely fire had a lot to do with it. I mean, just the fact that you can cook meat makes a huge difference in your nutrition.
Yep.
I think it's fascinating. We still find staring at a candlelight like mesmerizing. Like people still will light a candle in their room, right?
Fire is absolutely mesmerizing. And
is that from our evolution of staring at a campfire for over like eons or whatever? Like,
it's something that's
or even a fireplace.
There's
even a
something
fireplace
not
would have
quite-
been necessary to keep like the family warm at night. And like there's no light, like before electricity. Like you don't even have to go that far back.
So yeah, I mean, you have fire, you have water, and then you have things like mushrooms and cannabis and things like that, and you combine all that together. It's all things that people used to do in the past, especially religious things people used to use in the past. You combine that all together, you can come up with some interesting concepts.
No, I think what you're talking about, Mike, is human nature, right? Because we don't look at the sky nowadays just because every person before us has looked at the sky. I mean, don't we consciously like look up at the sky because we know it's going to be cool?
A lot of people don't even look at the sky anymore.
Yeah.
I think there's something that draws us in though to like a candlelight or a fire or a flame. Like
it doesn't act like anything else that we encounter.
There's an argument to be made that beauty is objective. We don't necessarily know how to define it, but there's something that gets people just to fucking look, right? Or double take, right? Just look at it with like that awe, for example. Maybe, so.
Yeah, I don't know. The more I think about it, I think he's right. Because like before electricity, they also had candles, like just to like light their houses. So like you sat at the table and you lit a candle so you could see your dinner.
Right.
Fire mattered forever until we had electricity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like forever.
And really electricity is electric light's kind of a sanitized version of candlelight or firelight.
Light illuminates things physically for us, right? Religion is just meant to do the same thing for us mentally, right? Those little dark spaces in our thought processes in our brain.
Spiritually.
Well, it was also protection. I mean, when you were around the campfire, you had that radius of light. You were all surrounded by the campfire, and all the demons and the monsters and the animals out there couldn't get you.
Yeah, you weren't cold. Yeah.
Yeah, and you weren't cold.
Yeah, it's funny how you guys are talking about like we were so evolved past that. I'm like, if you grew up in like the world north, like Pacific Northwest, I'm like, guys, we still do fires like all the time. Like, I'm like, yeah, like you can't beat wood heat. Like electric heat's nice, but you can't beat wood heat. Like
Texas
that's
a couple months ago.
I've been I kind of interrupted. I've been thinking a little bit more about this. You know what? I'll go and say stone date theory is plausible. I'll say plausible.
Okay.
I think it's lacking enough evidence, but it's plausible.
Why did you change your mind?
I just was kind of thinking it through real quick here while we're kind of chatting about some shit, and just kind of thinking about some shit, and just think, maybe I was a little overhanded myself. I don't know. I run through conversations.
Well, I'm just fascinated with the idea of who's the first motherfucker to try mushrooms, and did this motherfucker give everything authority by like, yo, that fucking tree said, bitch, sit down. Like, yo, that tree, yo, them clouds.
He probably looked at the other fucking cavemen.
I just took something from the universe, and then I heard other aspects of the universe. That's crazy logic. Like,
What have we been talking about already in the last 20 minutes or so? Basically, that when you ingest these substances, partially what you're going to experience is what you expect to experience. So if you are a primitive person taking in one of these mushrooms, and to you there is a spirit in every tree and every rock and in the river, you're going to experience that. And the people that are watching you experience that are going to think that you are in contact with something incredible.
I don't
but
think
I think
so.
that's the chicken or the
I
egg
do.
thing,
fundamentally
though.
disagree with that. I fundamentally disagree with that. You are not going to find what you want to find in a trip like that.
No, I don't mean that you always find what you find, but I think that we'll all agree if you are in a good mental space and you're happy, you're more likely to have a better trip than if you are down the dumps and you're depressed and that shit's not going your way and you take in some of those substances, you are going to much more likely to have a bad trip. Your experience, what you expect, does affect your experience to a certain degree. Now you can't manipulate it to the point where you can fudge the details, but it does. What you expect does have the same thing with the placebo effect. What you expect tends to be what you experience to a certain degree.
Yeah, I just love the idea of all this shit, man. I like the aquatic ape theory. I love because you have people that can hold their breath for like 20 fucking minutes. In like one lifetime, you can train yourself to go underwater for 20 minutes. I think that's, you guys know what's the record for holding your breath underwater?
Like those pearl divers and whatchamacallit, those are amazing.
The Islanders, man. But 20, we could all put the stress on our body and our body will adjust rather quickly. Now imagine generationally, that's all everyone does is all your food is underwater. Everything you want is you're an island that doesn't have resources. You go to the water for everything. You live in the water. You have the ability, like we can go underwater and see. But then there's people that live. Those people, the same people you're talking about, Ron, they have better vision underwater than the rest of us do because they've evolved with that capability. Man, that's fucking gnarly.
Sure, Himalayans exist in their altitude without any issue. You know. Yeah, people are adaptable.
Oh,
Are you gonna? Do you want to go, Michael?
I was gonna. Well, I this morning actually I came across a scientific study that was documenting how LSD impacts the brain, and it was saying the guy said what they found was that the drug reduced the amount of energy the brain needs to switch from brain state to brain state, right? And there's these pathways in our mind which are set as we learn and age, but when you get on when LSD or some other psychoactive substances, it allows parts of your brain that haven't communicated in a long time. It opens up all those pathways, and so there is and they've measured this with instrumentation now. So
these things are deconstructing your mind in the right doses. If you get deep enough, they're literally deconstructing the foundational concepts with which you've formulated your worldview. You're going into a deeper psyche that's untouched by your active thought processes, and you're literally getting deconstructed to the point where sometimes if you go deep enough, you're experiencing ego death, where you're gone. Everything
I've heard of that,
is gone.
Those of you that have done this, if you could explain, what have you come out of those experiences having learned, even when you're not on the substances anymore? What effect has it had on you? What has changed in you?
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
We're small. I feel
it's
like we're small, and we don't have as much control as we think we do. And we somehow so much more control than we think we do. It's weird. Every contradiction that you thought you knew once upon a time is not the contradiction it was.
Now I'm attracted to that kind of thinking, so I like that. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And it gives you like this clarity, but trying to explain it to somebody is almost
I sense that
in a
even as
way.
I asked.
It's impossible. It constructs you personally.
Right.
So
you see through the illusion of reality your mind is creating a projection of reality of the world around you and yourself and who you are and all these, and you see that all of that is a fabrication. And now you can't live your daily life with that as in the forefront, but it does that it's unsettling if you really get into that a little bit. And but ego death, one time that was like,
I like the idea of that.
it was it's a space you can not really describe. The best I could describe it was colors everywhere, like in the room and stuff, and then it all flattened. It was just a rainbow, and then it all flattened into a 2D plane, and then nothing. And
I know meditators that have reached that state. I've never done it personally, but I'd like to one day. I think that'd be interesting.
Like
It's kind of a shortcut in a lot of ways because it's like you could take the substance, or you could spend 20 years trying to do it yourself.
That's what I tell people, bro. Yes, literally, it's a fucking boom. It's like taking a capsule of philosophy, like a philosophical trip, a meditative, whatever. Because here's the thing: there's this misconception. I know a guy who meditates by rock climbing. That's how he meditates, because that's where he's mindful and singularly focused to task, and he's actually in his thoughts because he's not thinking ahead. He's present. He's present with each action, and that's how he meditates, right? So I think there's this misconception what meditation is. Not that you.
A lot of times, no, I have a walking meditation that I do as well. Yeah, it's.
That's how it was when I ran. When I was training for like marathons and shit, and I was a runner in high school. I would just zone the fuck out, and I'd think about some weird shit. And honestly, that's how I really had some of my theories of religion. And my pushback was while I was running, I'd have a conversation with my counterpart at church or my family member and literally have that, like these little philosophical arguments with myself and just kind of just check out on the time. Didn't give a shit how long it was. I didn't measure the run, just check out of reality and just go.
I've heard a lot of runners say that actually, especially when you're getting at the end of that run and you're pushing yourself and you're in that zone where you're just present and you're just going.
It's also like some great ideas to come when you're taking a shit. So let's be real. So it's not something fucking profound, but it does happen.
you tend to be present when you're going, oh, so,
am I going to stroke out?
Circling back to the 50-year thing, I'm kind of curious. I'm going to put Michael and Matt on, and I'm not trying to make Heidi and Ron feel bad. I just have spent more time with Michael and Matt. So like, I almost already know what they're going to say, but,
I got a hot take coming. You won't expect.
Okay. Neither of you guys are hateful, and your origin stories are kind of closer to hateful types of people. And do you think you're experimenting with certain medicinal things is why you're no longer affiliated with that?
100%. It all happened one night.
So in those 50 years, part of the things we do is like microdose congregations. I'm not saying religionistic way, but I'm just pitching this idea, and we just see if there's less hate.
I've been trying.
Like it's the fucking wafer, man.
The best. Put
it in the wine.
We're studying philosophy and tripping, but studying philosophy was the best thing that happened for me to break away from all that shy. For me, it was philosophy.
I took acid at grad night in 11th grade, and there was so much. It was a small community, so there's so much, like a whole, like all these people I'd gone to school with from kindergarten all the way through, and so there's all these like relationships where you're not talking to these people, haven't spoken to this group in years, and all this stuff, and it's like all this tension. And I was tripping on acid on the slide, bouncing up and down, and I just like it all. I just realized how fucking silly it all was, like in a moment, and dropped it. Like it's like all the high school drama shit. I just go, all of that stuff so fucking is pointless and is insignificant.
All I gotta say is, my clip of the day for me is just I can't wait to fucking do mushrooms and come back and actually do a video about it. I'll be like, I'm gonna write this shit down. It's like a dream, like you write down your dreams in a dream journal, some shit, you don't forget it.
That would be the neat thing about doing a show that way, is at least you're recorded while it's taking place, and I think that would be fascinating.
Yeah, man.
It's because I don't know. Yeah, it's tough. I've tried to say like, oh, I'm gonna take notes and stuff, and that goes out the window fucking real quick.
I like to leave notes. I like to leave notes for myself in my pockets. I usually find them about 3 or 4 hours in, and it's good fun.
Shit. Yeah. Ask your cat what's up or something. You start talking to your cat. And
shit. The interesting thing can remember the most, and it's a grueling process, because this is a long ordeal when you do this, right? Like you're not in for like, it's not a 30-minute deal, you're in it for hours. And like when your mind starts like reconstructing, your thoughts start realigning, like say you go to ego death, right? You're literally watching your brain like come back, like reorganize and turn back on, and that is a long process. It's but it's not. It's kind of it can be interesting, but it's not necessarily enjoyable though either. So.
Well, my one buddy told me, he goes, what he likes about it is like he gets to watch himself become conscious again.
Yeah.
Like he's experiencing his own consciousness come back online, because he says I'm here and the shit kicks in 20, 30 minutes, whatever the time is. He's I'm slowly a witness to what's happening and not part of it. Like I'm witnessing it, like out of like a big picture, things zoom out. And then he goes, you start peeking, he described it
watching the watcher.
Yeah, it's like you're zooming out, and then you go really peeking. He said just got boom. He's like really deep, and you don't even realize you're even there. You're not even there. It's just you see everything. And he said he saw connections like a little string. Everything that touched him was everything. Like he's in the woods and shit, like in a tent. He said he got outside the tent, just looked at everything, had a string touching him. Like he felt the connection to the leaves, to the flowers, to this. Every animal, he saw a bird. He saw a bird flying. He saw the string touching him. Like, then he said, yeah.
Have you seen that video of it was from the 1950s? It's like a housewife and she was given LSD and
I like those.
Yeah. I mean, she was talking the same stuff because it's hard to describe, but there's a connection with everything, So
I'm in. Just this summer, my girlfriend says I have to be there. I was like, all right, whatever. I don't give a shit. I'm just going to do it. I don't give a damn. But I don't know if I want to do it at home in my comforts of my home, or if I want to like just go sit outside by the fire right outside the house. If I start feeling fucking whacked out, just come back in the house,
Yeah.
That's good. That's a good plan, dude. Outside by the fire is a good plan.
And then you can pull it in if you need to or want to.
And again, I got a big old fire ring, all that bullshit, and a bunch of down branches, of course. I live in the middle of the damn woods here, a dead-end road, so I got plenty of debris. But I'd also be worried I might light the fucking place on fire, like gnarly, But yeah, I think all these are natural experiences because these things grow in nature. There's nothing... It's natural to eat these things that fuck your mind up for a minute.
No, yeah. Again, it's human nature to explore that consciousness, whether it be taking a mushroom or getting on a roller coaster. It's messing with your own consciousness.
There's psychonaut. Is that the term?
There's psychonaut. Like to fucking take substances or eat foods that fuck with their heads.
Lick toads and shit like they do overseas. People lick toads to trip.
Not just people, bro. Talking about animals.
That's in this country.
And in animals, that's true.
That's why I can't wait for the aliens to come, because I want to try them space drugs. Like, I know they got some good space drugs. Like, holy shit, that's going to be next level.
Oh my god!
I'm thinking like maybe they'll have like cures for things, and you're just like, I hope they have really good drugs.
I bet it's.
I'm with Mike on this one.
Mike, they have the most mind-blowing drugs ever, but they don't work on humans. Wouldn't that suck ass?
You're in the room, the aliens are fucking going, having a blast, and you're just over there. This shit doesn't work.
Well, it sucks because they come here and we give them something and they all die because of it doesn't work. And it's like the War of the Worlds movie with Tom Hanks and shit. What's that little fucker's name? Not Tom Hanks. The crazy one, the Scientology guy.
Tom Cruise.
Tom fucking Cruise, that little fucking weirdo. In that movie War of the Worlds, where it's a microorganism that killed them all off.
Yeah, we can cross interstellar space, but we forgot about germs.
These fucking germs. The Rona's here to kill the aliens in the future.
It's a good book.
Yeah, I just like talking about it. It's just fun, man. It's mental bubble gum, chew on that shit for a while.
I had a buddy who loved aliens so much. He was like, like those people who get abducted? Like, that's my fucking dream. I was like, you're kidding, right? And like he's the type of person who's like, you never know with Steve, right? I'll name drop. And he walk around. Oh, he's one of the smartest people I know. Amazing people. He walk around sometimes, just fuck around. People just like, insert the probe. I'm like, dude, you're sick, bro. I don't know.
Well, Steve's he likes butt play, huh?
he'd be like, insert the probe. I'm like, dude, you're fucked up, bro. Because I don't know.
This is what makes me suspicious of. It's always the most ignorant looking motherfuckers you ever seen that says, well, I was going down the road in my short box Chevy, and some bitch picked me up and stuck a probe in my butt. Why is it always a Cletus motherfucker? Why is it always
your brains there, dude?
Again, you can cross hundreds of millions of light years and you're interested in a fucking cow, dissecting a cow.
Yeah.
Why does that hold any value for you whatsoever?
Science,
Or you can
motherfucker.
cross interstellar
Science.
space. You can cross interstellar space only to get here and then fucking crash. What the fuck kind of sense does that make?
Yeah. Or make crop circles. Come on.
Yeah. Look, I made pretty shapes.
We can't understand though. Like we're projecting onto them what we think they should be like. Like they could be the teenagers of the fucking aliens, and they're over here like bashing mailboxes like we do. Like that's what they're doing. Like this is the teenagers over here fucking with us. Who knows?
Get your ass back here.
Right.
So quit
Timmy went
fucking
too
with them
far.
over there. They're not. They don't know any better.
It's probably the same reason Bigfoot's always blurry, right? You know, like, come on.
See the thing
It's a big ass alien with a magnifying glass. It's just fucking with the humans.
that footage the Navy put out though, that's intentionally lowered resolution. Like their cameras are fucking better than that, and they do that with all the stuff they release. They always lower the quality.
It's funny how that works.
Well, but also the ones that are made for tracking aren't made for high def. It's just for tracking a point. That's why they have them on those cameras, because it has automatic tracking, because they're not capable of flying and fucking like pointing shit at it. You know, It's just all about the tracking the devices. And I saw the one interview on 60 Minutes. It's like a U.S. Navy pilot was like, "Listen, when it goes from here to here, that's 13,000 miles an hour. That's not humanly possible. We will pass out and die. We'll almost die. Like it'll crush your spine at that G's." It's like, I can't remember how many G's he said, but it's like that's not humanly possible.
That acceleration is impossible. You can go as fast as you want as long as
G-force.
you don't accelerate. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. He's saying turning, like it went bang bang like a 9-degree turn. He's like, that is like X amount of G's, you know.
So this is kind of getting into the very hypothetical here, but there is like some theories of how you would do that when it's like manipulating gravity basically, and you'd have to have a really high like mass and energy level, like with inertia, and you might be able to pull it off with plasma and electromagnetic rings, right? And there's actually that link I posted in the private chat is like some of the Navy patents where they've been working on this stuff. So it's plausible that maybe they've made some advances and they can actually like spin up these really high powered gyroscopic like propulsion engines and can behave like that.
I would like to believe in a lot of this stuff because it's from what I've seen so far, from what we know, light speed's it. You can't even get to light speed really. And so we're talking about the universe could be teeming with life, and none of us are going to be able to ever touch each other because we're so far apart from each other. Yep. And to me, that's really fucking depressing in a lot of ways. You know, I would much rather imagine a universe where humanity goes out to the stars and encounters others. You know,
that's something my kids asked me. They said, "Do you believe?" They said, "We know you don't believe a lot, but do you believe that there's aliens?" I was like, "I think statistically, it's most likely." I was like, but I think it's also statistically not likely we'll ever know. I was like, because in 1945 in Berlin, we sent out the first video transmission from the Olympics of fucking Hitler, you know, and we shot it out towards Vega, the closest star, which is four light years away. That's the closest star,
right?
Now, let's say the universe is XYZ big on the thing, and we're over here, and on the other tentacle of space is the opposite side of space from the center of where everything is. If you go with the Big Bang model, right? We all came from the center, we're expanding out. The expansion is faster than the speed of light.
Yes.
So there's some things we'll never even be able to perceive that are actually
you'll never be able to reach. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That, like from the pinpoint, it's always been there. But we'll never see it because it's going away at a directional. It's the speed of light. It's faster than the speed of light, our acceleration, right? And I said, so there could be humanoids or human-like or even higher levels of life. We'll never know because of the distance to even make communication that we know of. It could take 4 billion years to get there if it moved at the speed of light, which it doesn't. So it'd be our star is going to become a red giant, and this Earth is done. it's over. This is not an infinite thing. So by the time that evidence came here, like if it's a speed of light transmission, we don't exist. So to them, we never existed and we'll never fucking know. That's most likely. Unless there's a factor we don't know about,
basically, you're right about the transmissions we sent out. And basically, everything since we started transmitting it's basically 70 to 75 light years out there right now, which means basically we're talking 50 stars. It's not much. Yeah, maybe. That's not much. That's not very far. That's just a blip in the cosmic dark. And there could be that there are civilizations everywhere. They're just too far apart.
I love the idea of the probe that is leaving our solar system and getting to that inner space. Like, I'm fascinated by that shit. Like, how long can we get a transmission from that thing? And how likely is it to get hit by something? Very fucking likely. But
things are so far apart out there. It's amazing. But it's
very unlikely it runs into anything. Yeah.
They just realized that it's reported back that it's found a hum out there. There's actually a background hum. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah. In 50 years, I hope we have like a pre-colony thing being set up on Mars just for shits and giggles. It really doesn't make a difference. Red Planet's going to get fucking swallowed up too by the red giant, but it'll prove the concept that we can.
We either make it out of the solar system by then, or we're done. So
yeah, that's it. We have a. This has an end date.
I'll give you the most spiritual I get is that you are the universe, though. Like, we literally, our consciousness, this is literally the universe observing itself. And that's, I wouldn't, don't be too just sad if we don't make it out there, because you're already there, Well,
think about this. Would the universe exist if we weren't here to witness it? My head hurts. Like, a tree falls in a forest kind of bullshit, If no one's here to witness it, nobody cares. Like it never.
It still exists, though. I think I take the side that of course it exists.
And so it's a little too much Deepak Chopra for me. If
you're
the
muted,
not
Matt.
there until I look at it, It's like
me, when I first heard that question, it was like, I was like, God damn, ain't we vain? What? Since no human was there, it didn't happen.
Right.
Not happen, but consciousness has to be witnessed.
Yeah, you're talking some right there.
Yeah, I understand.
Like us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not physically. Like, if a tree falls in a forest, of course it makes a noise.
No, but I mean, you're talking about physics right there. Like, I mean, physics, like actual physics, and some of he's talking. I think it goes back to what Mike's probably talking about in terms of like actual the observer, right? Because there's something this shit actually doesn't even happen unless there's something to observe it and thus set it. And it's kind of a weird little relationship we don't fully understand. It goes beyond me. I ain't no physicist. But again. Sound is not even we know what sound is. I think that the question was perplexed when I was a young kid. I was like, that's not, because we're like, like philosophy, like that question. Yeah, that's not philosophy. That's a stupid question.
Think about it. Sound only exists here and other places with molecules that can vibrate.
They basically, if there was air between us and the sun, it would be deafening right now. The sound of the sun would be deafening.
Shit.
Yeah, but because there's no air in space, we're good.
Sounds like life to me.
Yeah.
Well, here's a question from the comments section. It says, okay, weird thought. We can only see visible light, but what if before the flood we could see more past? Before the flood? What flood?
Flood of light?
The flood of the Bible?
Nah, that's not real. So
Red, blue, maybe seeing gamma waves. The rainbow is not the promise, but the block.
this is very mythological to me, so I just find it, I don't know.
Well, okay, so they're talking about the light spectrum and us being able to see more, because the visible light spectrum is very small in relation to the entire light spectrum that exists. So he's talking about seeing red and blue waves.
He's talking about the promise to Noah from God, so he's definitely talking about the biblical flood. So yeah, this is a little out there. I think somebody's on their own shrooms.
But here's the thing: our eye isn't
enjoying themselves,
capable of perceiving any other light than what we already actually perceive. Right. We have instruments that measure infrared, but we cannot physically see it.
Right.
We can't.
Microwaves, radiation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all this talk, it's fun to think about, but we have to understand that we'll never be able to comprehend the true nature of the universe or our own existence. That's like a fish
That's what makes it so precious to me. I exist as the tiniest fucking blip in the entire cosmos. As long as it's been around for 13 billion years, and I'm going to be here for maybe 100 if I'm really, really lucky, and just get 100 years to try and learn everything I possibly can about the universe I inhabit, and then I'm gone.
Yep,
and that's it.
I had like an existential crisis over this for like a decade because I did not want to admit that you would never know the answers, like that one, and that's where I think it, like a little not jealous, but like people that are very religious and they have the answers. It's like that. Maybe
it's comforting, dude, because it's dark. If there's no answers, it's dark, and humans are afraid of the dark. Fuck that. Let's just enjoy the darkness for what it is, man.
It is.
That's part of the problem of the religion, right? Is it gives you the answer, so then you're no longer looking for the answer.
But they're like they can live. I think they might live a happier life than someone that if you're a truth seeker and you understand, you find out that you're never gonna know the truth. That's fucking disconcerting as fuck. Like
there's also a beauty in it too.
It set everyone free.
Yeah.
There's also a beauty in it too, because having the answers to any available question all the time, especially when that's always the same answer, God did it, gets pretty fucking boring after a while.
Yeah.
Now, dude, I hear you, bro. Like 100%. Like there's some things like ignorance is bliss, right? But the reality is, man, like there's a lot of shit. Like, dude, you're a man of science. I know you're a man of science. You're a curious bastard, right? So I mean, in the end, like, I don't know. It goes back to progress versus truth, I guess.
Well, in a way, you're right. Because I remember when I was a theist and when I was young and I didn't know jack shit. And in some ways, I was happier not knowing jack shit. But I trade that complexity for what I feel is a deeper joy.
That's why they say ignorance is bliss. You know?
Right, exactly.
What is the good life, right? And that's why it's often framed as either like morality or happiness. I don't think the answer is either or, but it's certainly not happiness for me. That answer is not happiness. I'm not here to make friends. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy the happy moments and the moments where I feel content and the moments that the good things, right? But I'm not here to make friends.
Sure.
So,
what are you here for?
I'm here to fucking address the shit that I see that is wrong that I think I actually can do. Like there's some shit out there that's wrong that I think I can actually help with, and
you're here to defeat injustice as best you can.
I'm here to play.
It's a good purpose.
Yeah, dude. Here's the thing, dude. We all impact this shit, whether we want to admit it or not. It's bigger than all of us, whether we want to admit it or not. And so we should try and find and leave things. We should try and leave things better than we found them.
That's exactly what I said.
Heidi said she's got to bounce, guys.
Oh man.
Yeah, but I'm gonna try to come back if I can. I'm sorry. I gotta take care of something.
I gotta log off this. I got 15 minutes myself. I got to get off here in about 15-20 myself.
That's fucked up. I don't like that.
It's my girlfriend. I can't say no.
All fair priorities.
Right? All right.
All right.
Talk to you guys soon.
Yep.
All right, bye.
So Nicholas here said some crazy shit. I can tell you a bit about the spirit because I got to walk around outside of my body. The spirit you can see, feel, even pain. Physical objects are buried to them. To some, the same for us. A spirit can also teleport. Okay, I'll be the first one to call pure bullshit. That's no different than tripping on fucking shrooms. That's the same thing you're talking about.
I will say the serious claims need serious evidence. That's what I'll say about it.
Yeah, teleport, man. Come on now. That's a very specific term. That's out of body experience doesn't mean you teleported.
There's been a lot of testing on that. So nobody's managed to do anything like that so far. So I'm pretty skeptical.
It'd be cool.
Yeah,
it would be cool. It would, and I think that's one reason that a lot of people. I mean, I used to do tarot cards for fun, and I used to do them at parties and stuff. Because I went through a stage from going from Christian to kind of a Wiccan kind of quasi spiritual thing to then finally atheist. And one thing I realized when I started doing cards for people is they want to believe in it. And one thing when I started coming out of it and I realized, because for a while I thought I had a gift, then I realized it's not. My only gift was learning how to cold read people. And so I would do a reading for somebody. I would get all kinds of nice little juicy details from them, and they would tell me I'm the most powerful psychic they've ever seen. And then I'd show them and tell them exactly how I did it, and they say, no, you're just a psychic. You just don't realize it. You know, people want to believe sometimes, and they do, and they want to believe they will.
But there's something to be said for, first of all, out-of-body experiences ain't BS. But I would argue some of that language to me seems pretty extreme, right? You know, especially like teleporting. But there's something to be said for, but again, out-of-body experiences typically would be induced through like LSD, you know, things like that. Maybe through sleep, certain like kind of like fucking around with brainwaves, things like that. But that shit's it's beyond me. But again,
meditation again.
Yeah. But to your guys' point, it's like one of those things that's like I ain't gonna deny aspects of that, but the latter half of that comment, I just have a hard time accepting. You know,
did he have his last name there? It was Nicholas. Who was it?
Huizinga.
Housinga.
All right.
Huizinga.
Nicholas. No, but again, these are far out fucking concepts. It'd be cool. Like here, okay, I'll say this: as an atheist, I wish I was wrong. Wouldn't it be fucking cool if there was a God? Think about that.
Supernatural,
you know? Asshole. Fuck that guy.
Well, fuck that guy specifically.
Yeah, not the biblical God.
You're right. You're both right.
I'm saying creator, a creator. I'm not saying a biblical God.
Any of them can get that action.
If that
besides the
this world,
fucked this place up. Fuck him. Like,
no, but hear me out.
That's my theory, bro. If God revealed himself, god damn, the Christians would get mad at that dude.
Wouldn't they?
But my point is, it'd be cool if there was something else beyond this.
Yes,
that'd be cool. Absolutely. I would love to experience something else from a different perspective. Like, I love the idea of reincarnation. That'd be cool. Come back as a fucking bird. I'm down. Might get hit by a fucking Tesla, but
a long cool. Dirt nap does sound nice to me, but
Carnage said she's got to go.
Hey, Carnage was in here. What's up, Carnage?
Yeah, she was here from the get-go, bro.
Yo, Carnage.
Yep.
Carnage is a rock star. Much appreciated.
But yeah,
I that it's what does it feel? You know, that's like that old philosophy. What's it like to be a bat? You know, what's it like to be a dog? What does it feel like to be a certain animal? You know, what's it like? What are the lights on? When the lights are on, what is it like in there? You know, as compared to one of us.
Well, you'll get to find out what it's like to be the solar system. Like you'll your existence will turn back into that. You know, and it may. I don't know. I think that maybe there. Think about
reincarnation and the system that it exists in. Where they say that we're humans because our prior existence we were good at what we were a good version of whatever that was, this hierarchy thing. Like if you're a bat, you go back to being an ant. You know.
Well, that's the thing I don't like about reincarnation is the problem with reincarnation. The whole concept of it is you don't remember your mistakes from your past life. So how are you supposed to do better the next life around? If you don't remember your past, how can you correct for the future? That's just ridiculous.
Well, it doesn't have to make sense either. It's reincarnation. Right. But I like the concept.
The concept's neat. Anything circular like that, I think, is a pretty cool concept.
It's not that crazy if we think about how interconnected life is and just how much we don't know about it. I don't think it's that crazy to think that like some like kind of energy or like whatever drives like this physical entity when it goes away like pops up in some other way, but it's not to like the way like it's not like to your point like souls and stuff like that.
Yeah, every atom of every person that has ever lived and died is still out there. And so is the energy that they used. It's still out there. It's just in the form of heat now that it's dissipated, but it's still there.
Some of their
energy isn't destroyed.
Molecules might be in your body now. Like
there are molecules right now hitting your face that are taking off in every other direction, and because they have interacted with you, they will be heading out in those different directions forever. Because
do you like the idea of consciousness being transmissible?
I think that there's something that can be researched, and because consciousness is one of those that we don't understand really at all. Like when does consciousness begin? Like you can look at from the molecular level, biology level, like
22 weeks is about when we can you're just saying like
with animals, like you go from viruses which aren't even like really alive to bacteria, single cell, like, and at some point there's a consciousness that emerges, and then you look at the neural networks that we're developing in AI machine learning environments, and at some point something happens that is consciousness, and it's a fuzzy, very gray area where
It's
that
a spectrum
happens.
too. I mean, if you have a dog or a cat, you know that fucker's conscious. Maybe not to the same level we are, but it's still conscious. Yeah.
That's why I
And
love
I
those
think
videos.
the idea of moving it into a
Consciousness amongst
machine.
humans.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You're good. There's levels of consciousness amongst humans, even.
Yeah. Sometimes.
That's a spectrum now.
Dude, my friend, he just was in that horrible car crash, right? And he had severe brain damage, and he's going through recovery now. And so parts of him are like, waking up and wrecked there, and other parts aren't. And I'm not up to speed on it because I'm not there every day or whatever. But you can tell from the accounts of it, it's fascinating as fuck how the mind is, and then the people that do that work daily, day in and day out, in those cases, they do have a kind of they got a good grasp about our own mind and what faculties turn on and turn off, and so they're starting to map this stuff out at a more academic level. But
it's also different for everybody too. I mean, there's general areas, but it's also different for everybody, which is kind of neat. I always thought the concept of uploading your mind into a machine is interesting, but I just don't see how that could work since the mind is wetware. Everything is dependent on chemicals, hormones, and it's not just software. We tend to think of it as a computer, but there's so much of our brain that is dependent on those hormones and that wetware type of stuff that just putting it into a computer would not provide.
Yeah, but
so I wonder how would that still be you if you were in a computer?
I like this. So what if you made a code that simulated the chemicals? These are all possible.
Right. I thought about that too. I thought that would be interesting. If you could simulate the hormone production and the effect. That'd be a bitch, though. That would be a bitch.
Well, we've got quantum computing that still hasn't been broke. So once we get quantum computing, we can have some serious fucking advancements. And Michael know more about that as far as AI goes and stuff.
The Elon Musk brain implant, neural
neural implant.
That stuff it's creepy, but it's real, and it's very. They are going to do this.
I actually live streamed that his exhibition with the pigs.
Yeah,
because their skulls are similar to the human brain, dude.
It's
fucking badass, man.
It is. It really is.
Well, they had that one guy that was paralyzed, and it was in a locked-in state, but they implanted the electrodes in his brain, and now he can basically text at 60 words a minute with 99% accuracy just by thinking about it. That's fucking amazing.
Imagine if we had that technology available for Dawkins instead of blinking.
Hawking, you mean?
Yeah. Hawkins, yeah, not Richard Dawkins, Stephen Hawking, yeah. Because he has a translator that goes off of blinking his eyes and shit. If he had that neural implant, holy fucking shit, what could he have done?
Right,
dude, this could be weaponized as well. So
AI can be weaponized.
So using nanobots to penetrate the blood-brain barrier and then to attach to neurons in your brain. They've got research papers on this. I don't know if they've actually tried to do it yet or not, but I think it's plausible that this.
You mean the ones that are in the vaccine?
In theory, you could flip messaging, as someone said. If this, in theory,
well, we already know it can happen by accident, right? We've had cases where a man started fondling family members, and they found a tumor in his brain and removed it. The urge went away, and then he reported again, starting to see those same feelings, and they went into his head, and they found it was growing back. They took it back out. We have the Texas shooter, who was determined that pretty much his tumor in his brain caused him to lose his shit and shoot people. It can be done by nature, then it can be done by other methods.
And at first, they wouldn't have to be very good at it. They could, if they just produced a general sense of agitation and frustration amongst a broad, spectrum of the population, that would incredibly damage a society in a country, as far as productivity goes. And I was reading about the weaponry that they use on crowds. You know how they had that ray gun or the heat gun at some of the protests last summer. The next versions of these that they're working on are much more granular. Like they're more targeted. They're able to control them much more accurately. So
like the Jewish space laser.
yeah, except it's in your hand maybe, and it can be targeted at one individual, and maybe it just doesn't burn him that he notices he's being burned, but maybe it just raises his temperature up by 4 degrees, so he just gets really exhausted fast and decides to go home instead of staying at the protest. Like
Or
things
cooks
like
your
that.
fucking liver.
Yeah, just making you uncomfortable, but not to the point where you think anything's actually happening to you. Is
Yeah.
what they're. Yeah.
They got all kinds of shit going on in these assholes.
They are, and we don't know it. They won't tell us about it.
And we still don't have a Department of Technology in the United States government. A bunch of fucking idiots.
And
How does Facebook work?
we got the programming devices in our pockets. They've
got
programmed.
that right.
I mean, those are behavior control modification devices.
They're causing a lot of anxiety already.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, speaking of new devices, you guys, Fireside, get on it. It's a wonderful little app. It's the future, I'm telling you. Twitter Spaces and Fireside is
So
going to be the
how did?
future.
So I was checked out Twitter Spaces. How's Fireside different than Twitter Spaces?
So Twitter Spaces is a static environment. There's only one place, only does one thing. It's just like a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
Fireside is actually going to be like it already incorporates everything into one place, like a one-stop shop. It's like the Walmart of podcast apps, if you will. You know, so you can record and edit in your app very, very easily. Like it makes clips out of every pause or breath type of thing.
Oh,
You just click cut.
now you got my attention.
So you can edit, you can record, you can broadcast, rebroadcast your stuff, and it sends it to every podcast app through Libsyn. So I don't have to pay $20 a month no more once this thing's rocking and rolling. Saves me money. And they're gonna have video capabilities. You know, like they're really gonna have a lot of capabilities in the future too. They're not even talking about. But it's like if you're gonna start a podcast, this is the place to start it at now. And they also vet people, so you can let some fucking scrub in that's gonna talk conspiracy theories or whatever. Not a conspiracy theory, but I mean like if it's like they won't allow hate groups and it's vetted. No trolling. And you're responsible for the people you bring in. Like I'm gonna send you guys link. If you guys do some fucked up shit, I go down with the ship too for bringing you guys in.
Saying it's time to burn that flag.
Thanks, fucking Matt. You're gonna be the one that gets me kicked off.
Why would you invite Michael and Matt?
And Michael, yeah, fucking,
We will go down with this ship.
we'll be in the fucking band on the fucking Titanic, man.
I'll be waving you the other end.
Yeah,
Bad move, boys. You fucked up when you brought us on here.
That's like me and my girlfriend was joking a while back. She's got one son, right? And she goes, I don't want to put him in a nursing home. I was like, he can't put you in a nursing home. Well, if we're still hanging out, I said, we're going to the nursing home. You know, and she's like, I ain't going to nursing. I said, if we go, we go. It's us, you know. You don't go alone. She hates talking about that shit too.
Oh,
Fireside. Let's download this bizatch.
Yeah, so Fireside's a podcast app with video capabilities, multi-streaming to LinkedIn, Facebook pages, to YouTube. Like they're expanding. And again, this is co-founded by Mark fucking Cuban. He's a forward thinker, man. He's a tech guy.
Fireside chat with society's leaders. That doesn't seem like the right one. Fireside get talking.
Fireside.fm.
Hold on.
I think it's Fireside.fm.
It is. Here, let me go to my profile and I'll tell you guys. It's firesidechat.com is where you can go. No, sorry, Kitty. I sniffle. I've gotten allergies real bad and I mowed my yard today and I've been fucked up ever since.
On that. So that's a website?
Yep. But it's an app on your phone.
Whoa.
You got to, but the link will be in the website, I think. But I plan on doing like a Twitter Spaces and a Fireside Chat simultaneously on Monday with the other group of people I found through Twitter Spaces. Kim, a guy named Matt, and a lady named Mahat Mama. Just a whole new different. They're not into politics. They're more into like. They're more. I don't know how to describe that. Like they invited me onto their parenting panel about conscious parenting and stuff like that. Just from a discussion we had. Damn. This fucking nose got me fucked up.
By the way, you're a dude. We have that data guy. Who's that data guy you've been talking about, Mike?
Shane.
Morris.
No. Oh yes.
We linked.
Yes. You did? You got up with them?
Yeah, I got his attention. I stitched
Good.
his.
Good. Cool.
Boy, she'll find him interesting. I think we should try to have him on at some point because what he's doing, it's some super
What's his name?
interesting.
Shane?
Yeah, I'll let
Shane
Mike
Morris.
give the download because I think Mike knows more about all this.
The quick story is this dude is a data scientist and he is running 80 fake Republican websites, Facebook pages, and whatever for data aggregation in order to research their beliefs and behaviors. And he's running some black flag ops on them to get them to split their vote and or not vote in upcoming elections because he thinks that he's of the belief the GOP's a problem.
Shane
at
Morris
this point.
that sucks, man. Come on, man.
We're not making it up.
That's so good.
The dude's brilliant though. Like
man.
I'm a programmer and I can vet for the dude. He's good. He knows what the fuck he's talking about. He's the real deal.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I DM'd him and he implied that he would come on as soon as he got over bronchitis.
Yeah.
And he did a live the other day. So if he got through a live, I think he's on the mend.
I saw a few of them. He was still coughing a bit in them, but I was recording. I've got a few. I hit screen grab on some of them, so like there's some interesting bits. But we need to get him on and do like a long, like set aside 2 hours, and because if we can get him for 2, because I could talk to the dude for 2 for sure. Like,
Yeah.
Definitely check out his content. Sorry, guys, my fucking eye is going crazy.
You're good, man. We're about that time, anyways, for you.
Yeah.
I'm leaking. It's driving me crazy. Oh, I hate mowing the grass, man. Let me rephrase it. I hate mowing my weeds. Fuck grass. I ain't got no grass. Them shits was knee high.
Grass, that's for sure.
Ayo.
Oh, weed every day.
But yeah, I do gotta get going. I forgot it is 11 o'clock. I gotta get my kid up for school at 6 a.m. and bullshit like that.
No more late nights for you, boys.
Just for the next 2 weeks. Because then school's out. Oh, I can't wait, man. Because my daughter has this thing called 0 hour. So it starts an hour before school. It's a 2-hour college class. She's going to in phlebotomy. The next year she'll have it again. And then it'll be for medical assistant. So she'll have a certificate in medical assistant. And then she'll go straight into nursing and go into, she wants to go into medicine. So she's a go-getter, but it makes me get the fuck up early. And I don't like it.
my son
No, like-
registered for his first college classes, and the first thing he was doing was coming to me like, do you think I should go with the 8 a.m. class or the 12 noon 1 p.m. class?
Never 8 a.m.
And I was like, you know what you're gonna get it. He's like, I know. I just wanted to vet it. Like,
But if you want a small class size, you go to the earlier ones for real. If it's a tough class, do it first thing in the morning.
that kid ain't getting it up. Yeah, afternoon classes. That's where it's at for me. They made me when I went to college. They said, there's an older lady. She goes, you can't get through life with that attitude. Sometimes you got to get up early. And man, I never made it to that class. I had to drop that thing after a
Couple weeks.
Yeah, it's like you had to drop that before the date. Anyways,
Yep. All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it. We're gonna have some fun clips out of this shit, talking about aliens and shit, and tripping balls and
yeah, mix them together too, like into a concoct a story. That'd be good. Like use the drug references from the one bit, and then the aliens, and then
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use all your guys's blips and make you guys say some shit you didn't wish you said.
I'm good at that. I love doing that. It's,
and then mix in the chat with it, with the people seeing X-rays and shit before the flood, so that they can go have an astral jaunt outside of their body.
oh yeah, get that one comment in there from our commenter.
Yeah, the X-ray thing was, or the gamma rays, where the fuck it was.
Gamma rays and shit.
Yeah.
The rainbow comment was weirder than the fucking out of body one to me.
Well, yeah, because the out of body one can be experienced when you're tripping on shit. It's an out of body experience. I get that.
Yeah, but the fucking flood and
the
rainbow.
flood is the part that
Yeah, as soon as I heard the flood, I'm like, what is the flood? What the fuck
think
is that?
we know what he was. I think we all know what he was referencing.
Right. But that's my bullshit radar. I just immediately dismiss it.
Well,
Like, what flood? Be specific.
Yeah, well, I think the idea was for some sects of Christianity is, but before the flood, humans, before the flood and before Adam and Eve issue, humans had perfect bodies and they had much better abilities than we do today.
But there was only Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
So that whole thing's fucked up.
Again, I didn't say it made sense.
Yeah.
Just like when Cain killed Abel, where did Cain go? Well, he went to the land of Nod and picked up a wife. Where the fuck was that at?
Where's she at? Is that where non-bread came from? You know, people hate my sense of humor and that shit. But technically, if Adam and Eve story was true, we're all a bunch of fucking inbred cousins.
I couldn't
Which we
get
kind of are,
past-
because which we kind of are anyway, because of the we definitely had a
What'd
choke
they say?
point in our evolution.
Well, I was looking at the DNA things I did on my ancestry thing, and they said that technically every human on planet Earth is like a 17th cousin.
Yeah.
Within 17
Yeah.
generations, we're all kind of related 17 generations back in a way.
During the Ice Age, they said there was probably only 10 to 20,000 people alive at one time.
Yep.
That were that close to extinction.
Really?
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
talking evolution.
That's why we're so genetically similar to each other.
His ads, bro. Yeah, we almost got knocked the fuck out. We didn't even get a chance to ascend. Almost got this experiment.
But we did it, did we? We run this show here. This is
Because we
our
ate all the- because we ate all
now.
the
We get to
Neanderthals
make
and
the call the
shit.
shots.
We fucked the Neanderthals, then we ate the Neanderthals, and now we are
Right, and we're gonna throw the carbon up in the atmosphere. We do whatever the fuck we want to do here.
Shy, you've been mighty quiet, man. I gotta say, you've been mighty quiet.
Oh, I'm just letting Michael make it so you have a bunch of content to work with for those clips that he says things he wish he's never said. And I'm contemplating if
Don't
you're going to
regret
use.
anything.
And
I
I'm
ever
contemplating if for me you're going to use the bit where I said we should drug the churches.
Well, and the fact that Michael just said that clip, I'm going to use that the most liberally. Was I don't regret anything.
I don't regret a bit of it.
I'm gonna make you say something like you tickled your own asshole or some shit. You know, you never know.
I stand by my statements.
Fair enough. All right, guys, I'm gonna cut out, man. You guys take it easy. We'll do it again next week.
All right, yeah.
All right.